Hello, beautiful people from around the world. We are having our first London conference debrief. We thought we'd get together this Sunday, celebrating in bulk a little bit and process, since we were all at the London conference, how it was for us. So let's begin. Let's introduce ourselves. Who are we? Where are we living? And where is your 4722 in your gene key profile?
Hmm. Who starts? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, thought I might have been turned off.
Go ahead.
I'm not going first. I'm going to watch for a while.
Okay,
Yeah,
I go first then.
perfect.
thank you.
My name is Birgit or Bridget, and originally I'm German, but I'm living in Spain and I'm married to a Welshman. So that's maybe important. And the whole story why I'm at the Gene Keys is because I wanted to improve my marriage or the way how I'm relating. I put it that way. And after 3 years, I have my first breakthroughs. I had to be
Oh,
patient. So going to my gene key profile, I'm a 35 Sun and a 5 evolution patience. And I have a 22nd radiance and a 47 purpose. Line 1 and line 5 on my Sun and evolution. So that's about me, I think, in very short.
yeah. Broad stroke. Thank you.
Here we go.
Well, I am Tia. I should introduce myself there first. I live in Gainesville, Florida, which is smack in the middle of the state, surrounded by a lot of alligators and springs. I have 47 life work, 47 Pearl, 47.6 life work, 47.1 Pearl, and then 22 for my my
Wow.
evolution. Yes, so I always get excited hanging around with other people with 4722 in their profiles. So I'm very glad to be here.
Hi, I'll jump in now then. My name's Lorna and I live in the Scottish Highlands.
Wow.
I'm from the very north of Scotland, but I live in Inverness, which is the Highland capital. I always feel a little bit different in this group because I don't have that 4722 in a prominent place. So but I do have the 47 line 1 in the human design in my moon, my personality moon. In the Gene Keys profile, I have the 22 one as my Pearl. So that's where I'm at just now. Thank you. Great to be here.
Wow. The Highlands of Scotland. Hi, I'm Taaja Kaylor. I might as well go next. I made notes. I just tell you, I've been sick since December 28th with the RSV virus. So I'm just really hardly coming out of it. Today might be the first day I might be normal. But I went to a birthday party last night to step out and have some fun. And you can hear my voice. I'm still not quite here, but it was a lovely party. I just let myself go and have fun because it's been a long time since coming down with this virus. So I'm happy to meet you all. This is kind of exciting. I'm Taaja Kaylor, and I am from Vancouver Island. I'm reading off my book so I don't miss anything. I'm from Vancouver Island, British Columbia, Canada. And Matthew Ashdown, as you know, lives on the island as well, and a couple of other people. It was quite amazing. Peter Tung, if you know him, he lives on Vancouver Island, and I've had some amazing appointments with him. And I'm just trying to think if anybody else was there from here, but I can't remember anyone else. But I do love the big bear hug I got from Matthew when I got there. He's such a wonderful guy, and kind of all the odds are against me. I'm 75, right? Well, actually, I'm 76, but I call myself 75 because I like that better. And so I'm ageless and timeless, like all of us. But anyway, kind of the odds are against me coming, and I'll tell that story a bit later because it's quite fun. My 4722, I haven't done human design, but I have someone did like a sheet for me. And so I see things there, but I don't know what they mean. Except that I'm a manifesting generator and I have satisfaction, anger, and frustration. I pinpointed those ideas. So my 4722 is in my vocation. That means I have the 22, yes, as my programming partner. Actually, I've had two major operations, and I'm so grateful for the 22 because one of them was on September 22nd, a couple of years ago. But I can get back to that later. I have been in Gene Keys since 2020, which would make it almost, well, not quite 5 years yet. I met Richard Rudd. I saw him on Unify and back then, and I was going in for my 47.1 carotid artery surgery. I had a 95% blockage in my carotid artery. And so I thought, who is this guy? So I thought, and I'm kind of shy about things. I thought, well, I'll see if I can get him on Facebook. And sure enough, he responded. And I asked him what I should do. And he said the first thing where you have 7 people. And that was very nice. And so I joined. So just one quick thing, when I was in the step down room after surgery, I had my laptop. I was determined to be with my group of 7, and I had it there, and I put a pillow over my head and had my earphones on, and they couldn't believe this woman who was listening to these people in the step down room after surgery. So Grace has been around me for some time. Yeah, okay. My overall experience of London,
No,
we'll get
let's
that later.
pause here. Let's
We get that
pause.
later. Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, hi, I'm Mac. I live in Glasgow, also in Scotland, which is in the UK. And I do not have the 22 either in my human design or in Gene Keys, but I do have the 47 line 4 in my core wound vocation.
Mm-mm-mm.
Mhm.
We're glad you're here.
Thank you.
Yeah. All right, my friends. Let us ground and pray and breathe together, eh? Find yourself centered, find yourself situated that you can come into your breath. Let your breath guide you into the center of your center. Bring yourself, however you are today, present. Invite you to feel your roots connected to the earth. You're grounded and you feel resourced. As we show up in this quantum talking circle together from around the world. Take a moment to contemplate your life's work right now. Bring in the energy of your life work. Breathe into that as we all find our voice today. As we represent our voice, our story, our experience of the London. And bring your breath into your belly, feeling your culture, thinking about how we are creating an ecosystem today. We are bringing our culture into this microbiome and into our group of the 4722, sharing our microbiome with our peeps. I invite the energy of grace to be with us today as we are in circle. as we are contemplating how that conference touched us and changed us, and come to this space with sacred listening, contemplation, and presence. Ah. All right. Thank you. Okay, now it's time for our bigger stories. Let's hear the broad general feeling you had or your experience being at the London conference. And maybe you could mute yourself when you're not talking, so we're just picking up one person's sound waves.
I'm going to jump in. Tia, first of all, thank you so much for organizing this. I really appreciate it. And I don't think I've been in a room like this with any of you before, other than in London. And I don't think I ran into any of you there. I think we just missed each other, Tia, at some point. So isn't it funny that we were all there, but maybe we didn't meet in amongst those 600 people. So for me, I won't go into the journey of getting there, but I was so glad when I did get there, and I recognized that just before it was confirmed that I was going, I was taken in through the dream arc into a deeper place of the art of contemplation. It was like you're going into a deeper space now of this art, with this art of contemplation. And it dawned on me that it had been 7 years in November that Gene Keys first came to me. Well, that's not true. They'd come before that, but I just resisted them and ignored them. So it felt really like a completing of a 7-year cycle with the Gene Keys, and yet a new beginning as well at the same time. You know, with the Venus sequence and all these journeys that many of us have taken with these with the Golden Path. So many times with Venus, I was back at these memories with the core wounding, and there had been 2 near-death experiences in the womb for me with my mother. So it felt very potent for me to be coming down and being in our community with a global community, humanity. And you said there to take in our life's work, and mine. I'm on the countdown to a 9-day. I'm on a 9-day countdown here in this universal year of 9. People that do know me go, "Oh my God, you love the numbers, don't you?" And I'm like, "Yes, I do love the numbers." So I was noticing that, oh, it's 2, 2, and then it's like 2, 2 again, and then another 5, and I was just adding up all these numbers, and I love that it's I think it's 13 that it comes to today. The date. Today's date comes to 13, and we're traveling with the 13th as well in the transit. And yet my own personal transit is, you know, completing on, I'll have done 9 7-year cycles on the 10th of February from the day I arrived in this incarnation. And since London, it feels like I've been integrating many lifetimes, many lifetimes. And just after London, I came home, and myself and my partner went to the Canary Islands, to Lanzarote, for a 10-day break. So I just put the Gene Keys down at that time, because I was like, whoa, I just want to, you know, absorb all this stuff. And London, for me, my favorite part was the Omen session that we had. That, I mean, there was too many to mention. The guides all meeting on the Friday night was the start. It was just fantastic. And then the Omen and the standing ovation to Richard's wife for supporting him. Even still, I get, oh, when I remember, I felt so sorry for her as well at the same time. I was like, poor woman. She looked like she wanted the floor to swallow her up in some instance. He was like, oh my God, probably going to kill him tonight. For that. But you know, just to acknowledge that she's there, the power behind the throne, perhaps, who knows. But yeah, that's sort of like a brief summary of mine. But when I went to Lanzarote, don't know if you can see it, but I went and got this tattoo. And you brought in the culture there as well. And this is my culture, the 55th gene key. So line 4. So I was called to go and get a new tattoo and while I was away. And I really didn't believe I knew. And I thought there'll be a waiting list to get in for a tattoo. But no, everything just went perfectly. And I sit and I contemplate with this. Because all my other tattoos, I've seen you, Tia, with all your lovely tattoos. Mine are all on my back where I can't see them. This time it was like, no, you need one here that you can see and you can sit and be with it and contemplate it. So anyway, that's me. I'm complete for now. Thank you for listening. Fantastic journey. I look forward to hearing the rest.
I'll share my story. So I went to Colorado, which he did right before at the Gaia television studio, and that was amazing. And so I told myself, that's enough. Pay off your credit cards. But then the election in America happened, and I was like, ah, and I bought a ticket the next day. And that was like, get me out of this country, even for a week. So I felt empowered. It felt like, I mean, I really, really wanted to be there. I was so drawn to get there. When I arrived, I had just gotten my first crown ever in my life, and it went haywire, and I had a massive mouth infection. And so, like, my face blew up like a baseball. And the night before I went to the conference, I was at the ER in London. And that was a wild experience. First off, wow, English medicine was a delight. I felt respected and taken care of. I got in and out of there, and they didn't charge me $7,000. Like in America, that would have been 7 to 10 grand to go get antibiotics at the ER. So I just was kind of laughing at the whole thing because I figure, well, this is a part of my gene key experience, right? And when the next morning I woke up and I think about transfiguration a lot because 47 life work, 47 pearl. And I'm always thinking, I'm finally going to transfigure my body the way I want it. And I'll finally have the hair the way I want it. And I'll transfigure, I transfigured, but I did not recognize myself. I looked like an ogre. And I was like, that kind of cracked me up because I was so excited to meet everybody. And yeah, I felt very vulnerable and I was in agony, absolute agony. I was eating like ibuprofen and painkillers like I never ever do. That was a big part of my journey. And then Richard started talking. And I was up at the top in the very back row. And I just I transformed. It was so potent and soothing and calming and feels like a lighthouse. Thinking about our evolution and where we're going. My nervous system relaxed. I calmed down. Um, I shifted out of shadow wallowing, like, oh, I'm so oppressed. Bleh. I'm like, okay, 10%, move on, transmute it, transfigure it. And so, yeah, I made some friends. I had lunch with people. I loved when we broke up in little groups and we talked about, the what would we do if crisis hit? And that was really nourishing to me. And then just being in that Quaker church, I don't know how old the building was. It felt like 1700 building. It felt so magical. And I love about the Quakers that they pray in silence. So I thought about that high ceiling and just how much sacred silence had happened in there. And then there was such this presence. I felt very held and inspired and like I found the Gene Keys about 7 years ago too. But now more than ever, whenever I am around people studying, focusing, committing to this, my body just hums. And to be in a room with 600 of us doing that, I was in heaven. So it was a wild experience. I was in heaven, in ecstasy, and in pain and in agony simultaneously. Very similar to the whole rest of my life. Oh my goodness. Um, yeah, it was my first time in London. It was a dream come true to go to London. And so yeah, I just kind of was humbled with the contrast and blown away by the teachings. And I really wanted to talk to people about it. I wanted to find you all, but we didn't find each other. Um, so yeah, that's my broad stroke of my conference in London.
I go next. I have to start with my journey to London. Just a tiny little story, because we were about to go on the runway with the airplane, and then he had to actually turn in, and I thought, oh no, what's happening? And then there was obviously this Gatwick issue where they had this security thing happening, and the pilot said it takes 2 or 3 hours eventually. So we parked somewhere in the wilds, and I thought 2, 3 hours, that would be time for reading 55 or listening to it. And then, however, something made me change, and I opened 20, Gene Key 20. And believe it or not, I started reading that Gene Key, and within 10 minutes we were off. So that was kind of, for me, like in hindsight, not in the moment, but in hindsight, I mean, I'm getting goosebumps, kind of like already showing a little bit what I went for. I was actually going to London because I had a friend motivating me, a friend who I met online 7 years ago, and where we met in a course, also the Gene Keys the first time, not that I did anything with it. So the stories seem here to be similar. And 3 years ago, I really dove in when I knew I have to find something on learning about relating. Something caught me, what Richard was saying about one person has to do the work. And that's when I dove in 3 years ago. And so what was happening also before London was this year, kind of like this past year, I gave my husband the 3 words, allow, accept, embrace, along the summer when he was going into one of his depressive modes. He has Gene Key 1 in his life's work. Not that he is doing them, but in one of his dark moments, I was saying to him in the night when we were talking, I told him those 3 words, and he actually jotted them down and saying, ever since then, on the kitchen wall. And of course, when Richard was starting talking and started, of course, with Gene Key 25, I sent him the slide home. I said, greetings from London. Look here, that may be a Gene Key you want to read, because I left the book on top of the table here. Because he did start reading occasionally, but he said, I can't get into this. And I left it there like that. So to make one story short, when I came home, 25 obviously caught him. Since then, we are talking about Gene Keys at home, and I had a small honeymoon coming back home. So this was really a big breakthrough. And it hasn't diminished yet since then. I mean, conversation and talkings and everything is kind of opened up, and I'm blown away, really, honestly. So this was at least yeah, feeling into it. I'm absolutely grateful. Yeah, grace. I can feel the grace in my radiance, that I kept on believing that this work is showing up sometime. 3 years can be long, when you are in a crisis. And the crisis came because I had my foot out of the door all the time. So I put my foot into the door and things went better. So, but going back to London, that had to be shared. Going back to London, I was a bit overwhelmed by the 600 people because I'm naturally with my line 1 and the 47 a little bit shy. But I warmed up to it. I also met people. I was not so open to go to tons of others because the whole thing was kind of like filling me up fully. The transmission itself, the 25, or generally the like you were sharing, you all, that touched me deeply. I'm still listening to the ever since then, because the 20 obviously had this kind of rippling effect forwards and backwards, because I know with the 20 I can shift energies, I believe, at least now. And I think this is what I take away from London as a general. I believe even more in magic. I did believe before, but I think, or I feel London has opened me up totally to it. With a lot of things that have happened. The highlight in London next to the chanting was definitely a couple of personal shares of people. And also day 1, where we actually went into this kind of more darker mode and realizing I'm also living here in southern Spain in a part which may not be habitable at some point in life. I felt more my responsibility on sharing this. I mean, I'm having not own kids, but I'm ever since then working on also how to bring this into conversations where where people want to hear it. I mean, this is just simply how it is. Many people just, I noticed, still don't want to hear this, but I have taken precautionary matters into my own hands for my own life. I mean, we experience already super hot summers, which are extreme, and we also had to talk here about. So, I mean, I don't know if I'm gonna live that long that I'm gonna see the big changes happening here, but it's definitely something to keep in mind and keep open for it. So that's something I took away. In hindsight, also, I would say London, yeah, opened me up more to the gene key work, but that's, I mean, not that I wasn't into it yet, but it was kind of like, I made definitely a commitment for this 2025 to sign up for the Star Pearl. Got my little nudges there already. That was definitely clear for me once I saw in London the slides that I have to sign up. So I would say that the tickles and the intuition gets stronger on synchronicities are I mean, palpable in my life. Like for instance, this birthday party, which I shared earlier with this, that they choose the 1st of February for this birthday party with 2 Birgits in it. And I've signed up for a project with the German community as I'm naturally German, and I actually want to do more in German on this also. And I weave it into my German doings, like women groups, etc. So every work is infused in my life with gene keys now. And I had already tremendous insights. I mean, I haven't done much with the Star Pearl, but I mean, that opening itself is blown me away. We did a card reading last night. I need to share that. After the kind of party event, we decided we wanted to oracle a bit. And a friend of mine is doing this little oracle card readings, and she was sharing about kind of like my past is health issues which I was dealing with, kind of gallbladder and resentment and stuff, which is also probably 47.1 thing. She said those are going away once you come into your heart, and then you just need to watch that you're not exhaust yourself. And this morning, contemplating about that, I totally felt like she was reading out my life's work for me, my 35. Hunger as a negative, and the the adventure instead of going up and too high on the mountain for achieving something, which is a kind of where I'm coming from, was kind of this going into this self-love. I'm getting goosebumps. So I felt like, wow. And I really also communicated it back to them because they were asking me on what are the gene keys? And I said, well, this is for me gene keys. I'm going to such an event and I get a reading and I realize I'm getting my life's work reminded or remembered. So this is this is just little stories, little stories which happened since then. And I think everything went magical since London for me. Thank you for listening.
Unlike, excuse me, unlike it seems all of you have not really been exploring the gene keys for very long, dipping into it to sort of understand more my human design is how I started. And then I looked over the activation sequence, and then it was following I'm a reflector in human design, and I was following the lunar transits, and the 47 really affected me, and I literally could not believe that a sense of deep oppression hit me at the beginning and just went away right at the end of its 10-hour cycle. And I don't know why I'm starting here, but this is where I seem to want to go. Okie doke, that I've been studying the Akashic Records, and I went to my guides and said, can you help me with this? What's going on here? And they said, no, we want you to do it. And I just knew that I needed to be able to hold this, not just for myself, but to be able to hold this oppression for other people. So I did. And I was very gentle with myself for that whole period, exceptionally gentle, drank cacao and just being very loving and compassionate to myself and what I was feeling. And then I kind of knew about the dream arc that was kind of going on. And I thought, that's a possibility. And then they said it was going to have the overarching animal was going to be the dragon. And I just knew it was time to do the dream arc. But I waited as a reflector. I waited a wee bit. And yes, so I signed up for the dream arc, and that was last year. And then I found out about London. And again, it was annoying that I needed to go, but again, I waited. And yes, I needed to go. Now, I have a chronic illness, and I was lying in the couch for months before London, and I was not sure I was going to be able to go. And I kept saying to my body, we are going to London. Just do what you need to do. We're going to London. So it was a miracle that I managed to go there. And when I got to London, thank you. When I got to London and sat for those 2 days, it just felt like everything was just going into my body. There was a sense of peace, of groundedness. And yes, I can remember some highlights, but how I would describe it is listening to live music in comparison to listening to recorded music. Just totally different. So that's my brief overview of the 2-day in London.
Yeah.
Man, after listening to you people, it just makes me want to segue into everything. But I am going to take one little second, Mac, to say when you said 47.1, I think you said something about feeling shy or something like that. And you said something, but when I was in London and at the Diamond party, I had that feeling like I wanted to reach out with people, but there's something about me that just holds back. Maybe that's my 10.6 in my purpose. I don't know, but it was a bit challenging for me at that party, and I kind of wish. And I saw Richard and had my picture taken with him, and I didn't quite know what to say. And I said, my granddaughter has 55.5 in her vocation. And he says, oh, my son has 55 too. But there are other things I would have loved to have said to him. But, there's this part of me that maybe never quite feels that I have the right to do that. But anyway, London. So before I said that I had a lot of obstacles come up, and I had a new deck called the High Priestess that Peter uses, and I bought it, and it helped me get to London, because the High Priestess, and I live on the ocean, and it showed her arm out in the water, and it like this, and then it said that something about you will make a trip or something like that for your personal. And I thought, oh, thank God, because my husband and my daughter were kind of against it. I think they were probably worried about me. And so I muddled around for a week, and I thought, oh, gee. And then I went to see my acupuncturist, and I don't know if I told you this or not already, but I was lying on the table with all these needles in me. And I told her, I said, oh, I want to go to London. And she says, well, I'm leaving on the 16th of November. I'm going to London. She's not a Gene Key person. And that I started counting 16, 17, 18, perfect for jet lag. And there's the conference. So there she was on her laptop. She opened up British Air. She says, yeah, it's full. I mean, it's not full. And I said, book it. What a moment in my life. It was a complete turnaround, because I have the 47.1 in my vocation, and the oppression, I don't still fully understand. I was pronounced dead when I was 19. I've had a carotid artery surgery, 95%. I've had my legs done, my arteries. And I think, well, okay, I've taken on a lot. And when I was quite a bit younger, I saw a psychologist that said, you will heal your mother's bloodline. And I had no idea what he was talking about at that time. And then I started to piece things together. So we almost didn't make it to London, because what happened is we needed to take a ferry to get to downtown Vancouver, then the SkyTrain to get to the airport. And I said to my friend Lorna, I said, Lorna, let's meet early and have a coffee at Hullo Ferry. Just have a coffee before we head out. And she said, okay. As it turned out, there was so much action in the ocean that the Hullo Ferry never left. And that meant we had to go as fast as we could to get over here where I live, 4 minutes from this ferry terminal with the big ferries. And my husband drove like crazy, and they drove like crazy. And we got to the ferry here. It's only 5 minutes from my house. And I was the last one on the ferry, because I sent my husband home to get me a small suitcase. I made a mistake. I was a stewardess, and I couldn't remember anything that was the right thing to do, because I hadn't flown in 7 years because of my legs. So he got to the terminal just on time, and they left the gate open for me to get on the ferry. And I was the last person on. I came on where the trucks are loading, pressed the elevator, and I came up. I thought, oh my God, I'm here. So anyway, my friend said, Taaja, where are you? Stay where you are. So anyway, we made it downtown. We got on the SkyTrain. We had lots of time. We had a fabulous time in the airport. And as luck would have it, there was nobody that took a seat in the middle. So we had lovely time. Came home the same way. But so we arrived in London, and I had the worst possible place that we booked as a bed and breakfast. I don't want to go there, but eventually my daughter took over because she lived in London. and she found me a little 3-star hotel that was only about a 7-minute walk to a friend's house. So I headed out there the day before to check it all out. And I met a lovely man. He had a ponytail. So if anybody remembers, this man is about my age and he has a ponytail, let me know his name, because I'm trying to find him. My shyness took over and I didn't know what to do. And I would have really liked to have spent more time with him. Anyway, where am I here? Let me get to my notes. So I've had I wanted to say, you mentioned time out. I can't remember. Time.
It's
Eventually,
just Tia. That's it.
Tia,
Tia.
yeah, I know. Tia, thank you again. I had a heck of a time with PayPal trying to pay for my ticket. In the end, I couldn't, so I used my savings. But my life's work, I'm very happy about, is my saving grace, I think. It's 46.4. So that's ecstasy, delight, and seriousness, with a line 4 as a server. Well, here in Randall House, I own vacation rentals, so I'm in service of people all the time. I'm very sensitive with with the 19 that just passed was incredible. I just have to say, I got in touch with Tamara, the snake. It was Wednesday. It was the day of the snake, Chinese New Year. The 19 was running through the transit, and I got in touch with Tamara to do a reading for me. All of those 3 things coming together at the same time. So the oppression is going to change. She did a 12-month read for me. My life is going to change tremendously in April. And I don't want to say it, but it's possible I could lose my husband. But he's 81, 82. And so my life is going to change radically. But at the end of the road, December, things look better. So anyway, I really much love the Christ consciousness. And when we sat down here to do this, all of a sudden my neck just went like this. And that's how spirit reaches me. And so last night I said, I feel alone, like I don't feel like I'm taking things in. And I said, I used to feel it tingling here and I don't anymore. So all of a sudden my head went like this and I waited, and then I began to feel this tingling here. So I knew I was making a connection. Let me just quickly look at my notes, because there were some things that I was trying to follow that you suggested. My overall experience of London was, of course, the fabulous big bear hug from Matthew, and everyone greeted at the door. I knew some of them who they were, and it was such a nice feeling. And I did have the I felt so inclusive at friend's house, and the whole Quaker thing. I bought books and for my granddaughter, and interesting enough, I really wanted one of these books, and my credit card didn't work, and we had to get back. And she said, "Don't worry, I'll hold it for you." And it's so lovely because Richard writes a note in it, and it was the Gene Key 36, which I don't have, which is compassion. And he says, elixing the stars. Elixing the stars. He's amazing, the words he uses, and the being a poet. And I follow Pam Gregory a lot. I don't know if anybody else does here. But if you do, at one point they asked her, of all the people you meet, which one are you most drawn to? And she said, Richard Rudd. And I thought, oh, how lovely. So anyway, I have not understood a lot, and that has bothered me a lot. But as I keep going along, another piece comes out, and I am signed up for the Venus sequence for the 3rd time, but I didn't realize that it was starting, that I would not be able to even get into it. It was December, and I was cooking a lot of family coming from Belgium. My daughter, my little granddaughter, whom I only see maybe once a year, she's 2.5 with a 55.5. vocation. And I never really got to understand what's that going to mean for her, because I may not be here, So I have no understanding of that yet. And then I did all the cooking, and then we all but one person came down with the virus. And so we had a lot of fun the first week. My daughter lines up everything from Brussels, and then we all got really sick. So here I am, the last one, still sick, but I'm on my way out. So Richard, one of the things that I remember when they were showing maps, and people are wondering all the things that are going to happen. My best friend in Los Angeles lives right beside Palisades, and which totally burnt down, but she's okay. But when asked, Richard, what do you suggest? And I was told later, Richard, this isn't necessarily Richard's words, he gets it from other people. And it said Canada. And I was like, oh, wow, Canada, place to live. I have people staying here from Virginia for a month, and they're just so wonderful. They went and bought me all this fruit and, and everything was so kind of them. And he's from Virginia, and he's apologetic, and I said, don't be. I said, don't be that. I said, when I walk by the TV and if I see Trump, I say, I'm welcoming in an expanded consciousness of love, and I keep going. So I'm following a lot of things that Pam Gregory suggests, to stay in that place, stay out of fear. So London was a breakthrough for me in terms of oppression. The gift that I took from that when I came home and I walked in the door and I said, I am sovereign. That's really powerful for me, really powerful. It's like, that's the end. I can carry on, but the oppression has ended. I'm married to a brilliant genius doctor who saved my life twice, once with a carotid artery and once with my legs. When all odds were against me, the vascular surgeon, the head of vascular surgery for British Columbia and VGH, my husband took me there. I'm sorry, I'm just going to back up 1 second. My GP I saw for 7 years, and he did nothing for me and my legs. Finally, my husband said, ask for a CAT scan. And I did, and it showed how blocked they were, 98%. He said, we're going to Vancouver. We're going to go into private clinic. It was during COVID, and I was the last person allowed in, and they shut it down. And it showed that the carotid artery was 95% blocked. So I went back to the vascular surgeon. And he didn't like it that my husband was there, because my husband's very smart. He's a genius, because he was asking all the questions. And the vascular surgeon said to my husband, when he said, well, what about her carotid artery? And he said, don't open up that can of worms. And that's when we went to Vancouver. So you don't, pardon my language, fuck with a doctor's wife. You better not, because you could be in trouble. So pardon my language, but we went back and he had to operate on me. So during COVID, it was June the 23rd, during COVID, he operated on my carotid artery. And I went in there, and it was a 22nd. No, that was the 23rd. My legs is the 22nd. And my friend here in Nanaimo said, Taaja, make sure you don't go into seriousness. Stay in your life work, delight and ecstasy. And I had 6 doctors in front of me, and I was sitting on my husband's there. And they're all lined up there looking at me and talking to me and getting ready. And he said, well, we're going to go in now. I said, fabulous. Let's just do it in delight. They didn't know what the hell to do with me. And I went in that OR, saw the big lights, saw all the stuff going on. And I've got goosebumps, and I was totally fine. So my husband saved my life twice. He's also a controller. So I have a lot of, my father was oppressive. He was a war veteran. I had a very difficult childhood, fleeing, with my mother. We had to stay in other places. So I support women in Samaritan House here. Anyway, my purpose, I'll close with my evolution is 25.5, which is universal love. My radiance is 15.6. My SQ is 15.5. So the love of nature, all that there. The attraction, I just moved here, my purpose is 10.6. So I don't know why I often feel alone. But one of you mentioned different friends. I'm out on my own. I went to that party last night, and there's only one I'm sort of connecting with, and she's new, but nobody else you can't talk to. They don't know what you're talking about. They all saw my pictures of London, you know, but not one of them asked me anything about it. So in many ways, we're on our own here, you know, about a lot of things. But here, this is what I read on the way home on the nine-hour flight from London. For 4 hours, I read the little book from, do you have this book, anybody? It's just incredible. It's a little book. I guess it's because
It was part of the Diamond Pass, wasn't it?
yes, it was.
Mhm.
And Richard says here, the freedom prophecy. So I guess my little granddaughter is all about freedom. And I don't know I don't understand yet the meaning of, what is it again in the 55? The shadow.
Victimization.
Pardon? Yeah. How
Victimization.
does that work? Does anybody can tell me?
Well, let's keep
Well,
the focus on London because that's
London,
a
yeah.
large
Oh yes, sorry.
contemplation.
That's a
Let's keep the
whole other.
focus. We have a bunch of more. I want to hear about London. So
I loved Richard. He's so big, he's so tall. Oh yes, I know what I have to tell you about London. What I took away from that, Richard was playful, and he said to everybody, I'll just go short here. He said everybody with, I think he said with the 11.1, which is culture, and he said, would you stand up? And I stood up because I have 11.1. And what was so fascinating about that is he gave a story about the culture 11.1, and he talked about, because this is what he has, and he talked about how he worked with that 11.1, and this would be the creator, the script writer. And what he was talking about was the gene keys and how he gathered all these facts and all these things, you know, and eventually put them together, and there was the gene keys. So what it did for me is I did the same thing in the culture, and I didn't realize it. And he was talking about this. It was so beautiful. And I was a runway model for about 30, 40 years. And I put together with I had the toolkit, and I created workshops called the Red Carpet Walk, but they were spiritual workshops. I didn't realize it at the time that I already had neuroplasticity. And I had the red carpet and had about 10 women on each side. And it was about, I had to get first that I was a beautiful, what was the word I mean? My tagline is let that beautiful spirit shine. And I didn't have that. And I was in my 50s, and I met my soulmate. It was not my husband. And he sent me an email. I could hardly read it. And it said, let that beautiful spirit shine. And that changed everything. I opened up these workshops. So they were spiritual of nature. They were for all women, all ages, all shapes, all sizes. And when I had let my spirit shine, then I could teach it. And they were all learning how to let their spirit shine. And they're all successful. I was in my 50s. They were in their 30s. And they were all successful. And guys, it's time to do the pause. It's 9 o'clock. I'm done.
thank you so much for
Thank you. I'm
sharing.
done.
Thank you for your London experiences and more.
9 o'clock, 3-minute pause.
I'm not going to pause right now because we're filming, if you don't mind. All right. I would love to hear some of our favorite experiences at London. Like, what was some of the nuggets, the highlights? And let's keep it succinct since I don't want to go on too long today. But let's find our nuggets of what really touched us and changed us.
I can't pick out anything other than it's just with a 3-5 profile, constant change anyway. So you know, I can't sort of grab anything really out of the ethers right now, but I just loved that I met so many people that I've met online. For me, it was about Taaja, you talked about the bear hug from Matthew, and like when I went to meet the guides on the Friday night in London, I was following Google. I can't follow Google Maps. I don't know why that is, but I can't seem to follow it. And my mother said to me a long time ago, "You got a tongue in your head, Lorna, use it." So I tend to stop and speak to people and ask them if they know where I'm going. Do you know where I'm going? And so that's the way I got to this number 22 pub. It was number 22. It was the Princess of Wales pub. And here I was trying to look at this bloody Google Maps. And all of a sudden I looked up and there's Jessie and Matthew and some other guys that I had met in various breakout rooms. And I was like, Jessie! I did one of my deltas with Jessie. And I was already there. I was like, this is brilliant. And the other thing was Mark Bentley as well. He was a big shock for me because he was so tall. And I says to Mark, it's because of you I'm here, because when I'd spoken to him and he said he was hoping to get to London, I thought if Mark Bentley can make it from the other side of the world to London, I can surely come down on a plane from Inverness without, money was not an object. So yeah, there's nothing really, because it was just all so amazing, and all these people that I'd met and from deltas that I'd done and breakout rooms I'd been in, and I'm an Aquarian. I love humanity. Humans are my issue. But not then, not that weekend at all. It was just the possibilities of where we're going and the potentials of, if I keep taking this, having the grace to take non-love to love, non-love situations and putting love in there best I can. And I start with myself and my family, and then hopefully that expands to the human family best I can, and without taking everything personally. When I get sparked, I don't like to say triggered anymore. I've had my triggering years. Tends to be a little spark that I feel now. Yeah. So thank you. Great session, Tia. I really loved meeting you all, and hopefully we get to meet in the flesh again someday. Mark, I can come and see you in Glasgow. That's not a problem.
Want pictures if that happens, if you two meet. I would say one of my highlights is when he had our culture experiment, and he had 6 lines from each culture, all the 6 culture lines. That was so enlightening. He put the 6s up on the stage, and then he showed, how we all interact with each other. And it just, I loved the somatic experience of that. Like, I can understand with my brain, but when I see the people and I watch those 3s and 4s come and mix and merge, and I have a 6 line, and I'm like, oh God, now they got to go off the stage, and people, it was just so helpful for me to understand how we're feeding each other and interacting with each other. I loved the mudras. When we did the mudras with our hands and spoke it out together, oh, goosebumps, and it felt like fuel for all of our chakras. And I felt like we were really creating this vortex of peace. Felt so powerful. And then the oming, we must have owned for 15 minutes at the end in that space. I recorded it, but it didn't really turn out good. I don't know. Maybe it's just one of those moments you had to be there. And then I had a lot of relief that he was talking about the shit about to hit the fan, because it's happening. And I'm tired of people pretending it's not happening. And yet it was really nice to hear the end of civilization as we've known it, spoken from a place of peace instead of drama, and spoken from a place of remember all the lifetimes you had prior and still coming. And also, we know that that's all simultaneously, right? It's all happening concurrently. So that just felt like a tuning fork. And I felt my heart like ring. And I felt a lot of us connect. And like the attunement was all of us becoming tuning forks as we went out around the globe. Yeah, those are some of my favorites.
Can you hear me? Oh, when I was young, in my 20s and 30s, I read all the books about what was coming, and I attended workshops and healings and all kinds of things. And we called it the quantum leap. And I'm 75 now, and I was 20, 30. Read all the books, and it was scary. And so here I am coming to the place of where that's manifesting. But Tayama, I feel like you do. I wanted to be here for this. We did. We're here. My husband's not with it, but he listens to some of my readings. My children aren't either, which is interesting. As Peter said, you're alone in this one. But I just want to say that I feel I need to talk about it, but it's difficult, because others just have blinders on. So I don't know what we do. What do we do? Do we do that? Do we hold the torch? Because I was once told you're holding the torch. Do we go out there to start talking, or what do we do? If anybody has an idea, I'd love to hear it.
We do this. We connect. We're all listening. We all experience it. We all know the gene keys, and we're like listening together. So our energy is building more chi, and we're co-regulating here. We can enjoy like the experiences we all had. We all had such different fractions of experience at this convention.
I see. Okay.
So I'd love to hear more favorite experiences.
I've given mine. And that was the one where Richard had us there, that somatic one, but also coming home and feeling sovereign.
I generally felt like I've been blessed during London with kind of like gene keys, which he was talking through. And I had an aha moment at home when I was listening or reading Gene Key 5, obviously, where he was having the sequence of the incantation of solace, which were obviously the gene keys we were looking through. And that was for me kind of a huge aha moment in hindsight again. But I loved all of the gene keys and the mudras, of course, with the 14 and the 41, all of gene keys I have actually. So I kind of felt like I had to be there. It was kind of like every time a new gene key came up, or felt like in me this confirmation. And I think one of the favorite quotes which I wrote down is, every time we have a moment of awe, we can build the body of glory. It gets built into us and never leaves us. And I think this is maybe also for you, Taaja, with really kind of drinking this event in. It makes me believe that all roads lead home. This is a sentence that I heard afterwards from Tan Mayo somewhere in a transmission. And it was kind of like, that's it. always lead home. So I would not say, I mean, I mentioned already earlier, I love the and I love the standing ovation for his wife. And the conversations in between and everything which kind of upset me or made me happy there. I also could hug a couple of people which I haven't met in person yet. But I think the general transmission is that what I really took away, kind of being sovereign to decide I'm going there, because I knew I have to. I couldn't explain it any better way, but I knew I have to go there for some reason. And in summary, I would say I definitely drunk in a little bit of this future human into me, even so I don't know yet how it's going to show up. And yet I feel it occasionally. This is the moments of awe which I have since then kind of like multiplied. That's my highlight. Thank you.
My highlights, I mean, I think you've all mentioned some of the ones that I found highlighting, but one of the other things was the writing of the prayer that we put into a basket for others, and then we chose one for ourselves, which I thought was beautiful. The cards that we were given at the beginning by
Rosie?
yeah, thank you. Rosie, yes, dear Rosie, which was beautiful. I thought that was, yes, I've got mine here too. Woohoo! Yeah, I thought that was gorgeous. Anything else? I agree that the broad sweep of the destruction and decay of life as we know it on Earth, I thought that was really brilliant. I didn't think it was negative, although it could be, because my understanding of the creative process is you need to destroy before you can create something new. And so it felt understandable. Yes. So the prayer of solace, the prayer we wrote and received from someone else, the somatic expression of the culture lines, which I was really confused about. And that really helped me to see how line 5, my line 5 culture, yikes, operated, because I just wasn't getting it before then. So that was very helpful. Yes, and other things that you've mentioned, I would agree, were highlights, complete highlights. And when the introduction of the star pearl, yes, again, there was a knowing. I need to do this. Don't know why, but I need to do it. Again, I waited just to double check, but yes, it was a definite knowing and definite yes. Anyway, thank you.
Oh, it's so good to hear all of these highlights. I love it. And yeah, I'd be curious how attending the conference has affected you since then. Like, well, some of us have touched on it a little bit, but I want to hear more. Like, how has it sparked you? What has it inspired you? Like, what did you notice since then? It's been what, 2 months now? A month and a half-ish.
I'll actually go first this time.
Yes, Matt, go for
I mean, I had a kind of beginning to really trust in my sense of knowing, and it has been building up over the last couple of years. But since London, that is just grounded in much, much more. And although my finances have been the most chaotic, and I don't know whether I'll be able to afford something, somehow I managed to find the money for the Star Pearl, and somehow I managed to find the money for my third Akashic Records course from a benevolent funder. And it's kind of like, oh my goodness. And I just kept saying, I'm just waiting for a miracle. And I just kept trusting that it would turn up, and it did. I mean, it's just been absolutely amazing. I'm just astounded. And my guides have sort of taken me on a new path, put it all back to me, but just given me little highlights of what to do, you know, like during in Bullock, I got the Bridget card, and one of the animals that was to be my guide was a swan, and I didn't know about the connection. I didn't know about, I thought Bridget was more to do with Ireland than the British Isles, but it's not. And the other animal was a unicorn, which is Scottish animal. So it's just absolutely beautiful. Just the coincidences and synchronicities, and just been outstanding. I kind of go, oh. So thank you.
I love that. I hear so much prosperity and auspiciousness and like synchronicities, things clicking.
I'm just going to echo a bit of that, Mark. Thank you for it, because my finances are, I just closed down my business last week, 2 weeks ago. It's like I'm not earning any money, and I'm back to really relying on my partner, and I'm okay with it all. But there's just this inner peace that, you know, we're right down to the last of the savings, and my partner can go into his head with that and go, oh my God, we haven't even got a pension, we haven't got blah, 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 blah. and it's fine. It's okay, everything's fine. It'll be okay. I just you got to trust that everything's as it is, and very much noticing the symbolisms coming for more, you know, synchronicities have been around for a while, but they're more in my face now, and joining dots. And a lot of the time I think it might be just a phase of, you know, that with that 47, I recognize the oppression lies in my back through, you know, back issues, I call them, back issues. And it's down the bottom of my back where there's an oppression there through the family. Richard talks about the slice of suffering and the heritage. My lineage is alcoholism, and you know, through both sides of the family, and through my shamanic work about, I don't know, 10 years ago. It's only been 10 weeks since London as well. I just feel it's, you know, right? It's like, what? It's only 10 weeks. And yeah, it feels like it might have been 10 years ago. And also it feels like it might have been 10 years in the future. It's just weird. Sometimes when I think about it, it's just weird. And time is just falling in on itself. And because I'm with the Venus sequence again as well, it's, you know, I'm getting to relive my teenage years the last couple of weeks. I'm working with kids in Inverness that have been misplaced, or, you know, they've been kicked to the curb, and I get to pick up a guitar and play bass and get to sing and all these things for these kids, and I love it. It's just so lots of changes, and you know, I don't even think about money like I used to think about money and where's the next buck coming from. So yeah, thank you for that reminder, Mark. I enjoyed that. Yeah.
I hear
Thank you.
so much trust, Lorna. Like I just hear you've released some of the worry and the overthinking and the rumination, and you're like living in trust. That's so beautiful. I think I'd have to agree. I was so terrified when the election happened. And when I watched the first day, it just relaxed. I felt the level of like, oh, this needs to happen. This is part of it. This is the compost. This is the death rattle. So I felt just an ease. Like, I'm good with death and transmuting. I'm good to die. All of that. As 47, I'm like, bring it. Let's like alchemize it, change it. Um, so I think I came back very crystal clear. I'm not supposed to move to London, even though I would like to. I'm not supposed to leave America. I'm not supposed to run. I'm supposed to be exactly where I'm at in America, beaming my cities. Oh, let me beam transmutation and transfiguration. Let me beam light and clarity and purity. And, in human design, I have the left angle cross of informing. And so I am here to inform, and I don't have the answers, but I have a lot of different doorways for people, right? And so I love to inform what I'm going through, inviting other people to inform what they're going through. That's one of my biggest passions in life, is to inform and connect the dots and to connect networks. And um, watching the somatic culture exercise, I realized I need to come off the stage. I'm off the roof already, but it's still like I have that two lying so comfortably. I want to hermit still. But I want to be with you all. This is so delicious. And I love our 4722 collective. And I love the Venus sequence. And I love the Star Pearl. All of these are me coming in and playing with others. And so that just I feel so inspired to play with other humans. I like other humans, especially people who study gene keys. And I would say on a personal level, what I took away the most. So I've been working on my book for the last 10 years, and it's a lot about my alcoholic, dysfunctional, traumatic childhood. And I realized a lot of the chapters are heavier on the shadow wallowing. There's more than 10% shadow going on. And so I realized I want to beam the city, beam the gifts more in my words, not just me, but my parents, and like name the shadow and then shift the focus and like use that energy to really transmute the pain, because there's so much pain. And I realize as people read it, they're like, oh, I can't deal with this. But if I name the pain and then also focus on the gift and the city, the book is a much better read. um, I feel better reading it. I have a hope that people will feel better themselves reading it. And right after London, I came back to Florida, worked for 2 days, changed my suitcase, and bought it. And I went to Oregon, where I saw my mother. And I hadn't seen her in 9 years. And so I was taking the energy of returning non-love with love. And I was trying to bring all of the energy I felt in London on the couch with my mother. And it held me. I felt more grace than I ever have experienced around her. And I also felt release of wanting anything from her. Like I had let go of my expectations. And that felt like freedom, like I've never experienced. So now I'm back, infused with London, infused with returning love to my mother. Now I'm coursing through my book and I'm like chopping 30,000 shadow wallowing words out. There's still plenty left. So anyway, that's what I have taken my whole Gene Key experience with into since I've been back.
Thank you. Profound shares from all of you. I think I've touched a little bit on this already, but in essence, I can second this more trust, less victimization of myself, kind of like I'm going faster through the things which are coming up. I mean, it is not that the shadow goes away, but I can actually allow, accept, embrace it myself better, kind of like I'm more courageous in life, but also more courageous in my own shadow stuff, diving in and kind of transmute it faster. That's definitely something I can tell. I'm more courageous also going out, yet I know I need a little bit more of that. So, but I'm inviting it in. I had definitely more people coming or signing up for doing readings with me. I'm doing astrology as a main kind of like something, and I'm weaving gene keys a little bit in as I feel drawn to right now. So that is still work in progress, but that's exactly what I find is, as a summary, a more deep presence in me, more love, more deep love in me, and a deep connectedness to all there is, because I'm always guided. Every reading, everything I do, when my attention is there, kind of like when I'm focused and concentrated, I'm always guided. It's not that I have to search, I can let myself fall into it, and it's easy. That's the thing I want to keep on. Yeah, that's what I want to have all the time. By inviting it in. I think that's for me the summary. Thank you.
I hear so much ease and alignment and fun. Like you're having fun. Yes, all that hard work you've been doing. Now you get to like, and in your marriage. Congratulations. It's miraculous.
And then the Star Pearl asked me to dive into my core wound again. So that was kind of like a aha moment. Yeah, exactly. So here we are. I'm up for it. But I think that's just it.
Can I segue into your experience with your alcoholic father, mother? Does anybody hear me?
Who are you talking to? You're muted now, honey.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, we hear you.
My father
I
was,
didn't know who you were talking to.
well, sort of you, but everybody. My father was a war veteran alcoholic, so I grew up in those situations too. Fortunately, my mother was lovely and grounded, but we used to flee, and have to stay in other places too. I think I mentioned that, but I saw a psychic here. She's lovely. She's in Nanaimo, and she has a lovely tea place called the Calico Cat. And I saw her a couple months ago, and I didn't ask her anything, and she just said to me, "Your father wants to know, your father wants to know that he's with you." And how did she put it? Or something, or I'll always be with you. You will have all your needs met. And I was shocked because I just didn't expect anything like that, because I had not seen I walked away from my father for 9 years as well. And anyway, that's another story. But what happened is it just completely shifted, because I'd always been trying to forgive my father because he's a war veteran, and Peter Tung helped me with that. But what I was told is he's not the same person now as he was then. So he died when he was 69 on the table, X-ray table. But I thought, oh, I never thought about that, because who he was then, he would have gone through purgatory and everything else. And now he's come to a place where he's dealt with all that. And he comes back to me and he says, basically, it's a forgiveness thing, but he said, I'm always with you and you will have your needs met, because my needs were not met as a child. So that was an absolutely amazing experience. And I'm totally fine with that now with my father. Anyway, I just want to say something before we should close, and I'm not closing this, but before we do, because I have this little green book, I would like, if I could, read the last page and a half of the 55, because we've talked about these things. And the last page is quite amazing. The last 2 pages, it's just a little book. So if you give me permission, I will read it later, but it's kind of nice. It's unusual. I was shocked actually a little bit. So that's all I'm going to say for now, but I don't know how long we'll be here, but I'd be happy to read you that.
I think we're going to end soon. So maybe instead of reading, you could tell us one of your takeaways, what's changed for you since you came away from London.
Yeah, because I'm going to have to
Yeah.
go shortly.
I think one of my takeaways is well, I thought I'd already said it, but my takeaway from my little book. Then the boundaries of time and space will bend, and death itself will be revealed as the greatest illusion of all, such a world we can barely imagine. And that's kind of what I read on the plane, and I loved that takeaway. But it's still, my takeaway is my sovereignty.
Beautiful. I hear that. Oh my gosh. Thank you so much, everybody, for sharing. I feel like we just kind of flared up that London vibe that we had in that Quaker building. It's so lovely to spend time with you like this. Yeah, maybe after I post this in our collective group, we can share anything else that might have come to mind. I have a feeling some people might ask questions. I welcome that. But yeah, it's just delightful to be contemplating this and unpacking this with you all. And I appreciate your focus and your presence and your share, your vulnerable share.
Thank you. And Matthew had wondered if there was anything we could share of this group, but I'll leave that up to you because you instigated this. I can't think of what to say, so I'll leave it out unless you want to say a little sentence or two that he might be able to use that would be useful because of our rather unusual group.
I don't have anything particular. I just wanted to share this with us and for the group. So, yeah. When I was in Colorado, I was very struck how Richard said, when you get to get around people with your human design gates or your gene key gates, there's an activation that happens. There is like a recognition. And then also when we have different gene keys, we have different geometry. We have different angles of what we're coming in and with the different lines. So it's just so delightful to share in our 4722 group these elements of transmuting and grace. And so it's a pleasure to spend time with you all today. And I look forward to seeing you live another way, another day.
Looking forward to it.
Venus
Thank you.
is traveling in the 25th just now as well.
Yeah,
Just
I'll see you in the Venus sequence. We'll see you in the Star Pearl.
I'm a Libra. I'm happy Venus is.
Thank you so much.
Thank you
Yeah.
for organizing this, Tia.
Yeah, thank you to you.
Talk to you soon. Good to meet you all.
Talk to you soon. Blessings.
Very much.
Bye. Bye-bye.
Bye.